correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Roll for initiative.
Hello, Gamer Nation and folks out there listening to us. This is the Roll for Initiative podcast, issue number 8. This week, I'll be joined by a special guest host, DM Nick. Nick Blackstone, how are you this week?
I am doing fantastic. How you doing there, Vince?
Super. Nick's going to be sitting in with us this week and going to do a show while Jason is out of town tending to business. So,
Yep.
Nick, why don't you give us a little background about you? I'm sure some people know about you, but there's still others that don't know about you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was born at a very young age. No, seriously.
No, not that far back.
Not that far back. Well, part of at least my gaming history.
Yes.
Well, started in 81, back in the golden age, as many people call it, of role-playing games.
Right.
Got my basic and expert rules that Christmas from my parents, and also Monster Manual and Player's Handbook. Saved up a little money, Christmas cash, to buy the DMG on my own, and then it just never looked back from there, really. So, been playing all kinds of stuff, first edition, second edition, all the way through. But played a lot of role-playing games. I have an extensive library. As far as where I've been at recently, been playing Hackmaster 4th edition for a number of years, and been heavily involved with that community. Also a moderator on the Hackmaster forums at kenzerco.com. And been several of the big conventions in the past few years, Origins and Gen Con. Been involved with the Hackmaster tournaments there, so keeping that old school movement alive, but still love first edition AD&D. That's where I kind of cut my teeth on, and that's why I'm here, because that's where it all started, my first love, if you will.
Yeah, that's the first love on this podcast, AD&D.
That's
first
right.
edition. We are the children of Gary Gygax's image and wonderfulness, I should say.
Then I'm the redheaded stepchild. So.
Well, it's good that you do know some Hackmaster, because I know we do have some listeners out there that had some questions about Hackmaster. So now,
Sure.
If we have them pop up again, we can just throw them over to you, and you can answer those questions.
I'd be more than happy to. You betcha, anytime.
Wonderful. Let's move over to Sage Advice.
Yes.
Greetings, old one. We seek your advice. Excellent. Sit by the fire and we shall talk.
Welcome to Sage Advice.
Okay, folks, this is Sage Advice section, where we will answer your questions that you email to us, or if we find something on one of the websites. You can go to d20radio.com, and in the forums you can ask us a question in our forum, or you can go to the dragonsfoot.org forums, or actually now with your new forums that you're at, Blackstone. Nick, sorry. The Kenzer Company, right?
Yep, kenzerco.com. You can find me on the Hackmaster forums, either the older edition or the newer edition for their basic game that just came out last year.
Awesome. Or you can go to our website. We have a contact form, rfipodcast.com, or hit us an email, rfistaff@gmail.com. And now for one of the questions that we picked this week is from Buzz XF in the D20 Radio forums. And he wants to know a little bit about petrification. He wants to know what the remedy for petrification is the only thing stone to flesh? Can you be resurrected, reincarnated? He really wants to know what happens to the soul inside the body once it turns into the stone from the flesh.
Interesting question, Buzz.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We're assuming that the question comes from maybe like Clash of the Titans, maybe Outlook. People that got turned to stone, maybe.
Possibly that new movie that's coming out, the remake?
Yeah. Which is a great movie, and we're hoping this new one is just as good, but we'll see.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah. Anyway, different topic, different time. But back to the thing. Looking at in the player's handbook on the spell Stone to Flesh can be used to remedy someone back into the living. See, what happens is the body will be transmuted back into the flesh, but there is a system shock roll that a person must go through to survive. So, what happens when you turn to stone, Nick?
Well, I would say when you use someone used like Flesh to Stone or the gaze of Medusa, I would say, in all intents and purposes, once you use like a Stone to Flesh spell or a wish or a limited wish, once that has been used, and in the case of the wish, you word it correctly, once they're restored, their soul or spirit comes back to their body, and the body's fully intact, and everything, their gear and everything else is intact. So I think it's pretty cut and dry that there's once they're back, they're okay. They still need that system shock roll. I even think with a wish or a limited wish, I would do the system shock rolls as well.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because when I think about this, I think of when the body's stoned.
Yeah.
The soul is trapped inside.
Yeah.
There's no going anywhere. He's just there forever trapped, looking.
That's true.
Can't really look, but
that's true. That's true.
Just think of being trapped in a small jail cell, and you can't do anything. No one can hear. Solitary confinement. That's what it's trapped in until someone lets you loose. Someone opens the door.
Yeah, I got you.
That's how I think of it. I mean, you're trapped in there. That's the end of your character until they figure out a way to bring you back.
Right. I agree. Yeah, I agree. In fact, that makes a lot more sense. That their soul or spirit is trapped within that stone container. If you will.
I know some DMs have said that the soul, like you were just saying before, the soul goes away from the body. Mm-hmm. Where would you think the soul would go? Now, would we think another plane? Would we think it goes to La La Land? Where do you think it would go? If we're looking at that point of view.
In that point of view, I would say that the player character's soul or spirit would go to the plane that most matches their alignment.
Right.
So, and once they come back, they're brought back. if a DM chooses to play it that way, so that I would think would be the most logical way you can use that. If you're going from the standpoint that the soul actually leaves, and actually goes somewhere, and where that would be, if I were to play it that way, would be the going to the plane that close matches the player character's alignment.
Yeah, you can say, or you can have a whole fun side adventure with this too.
You could.
If say your group doesn't show up that week, and the one person that shows up, and you happen to leave him stone.
Right. Or what happens if the stone the stoned person?
Yeah, I know. I'm trying not to say that, but okay.
I'll say it.
Okay.
The person who was turned to stone.
Yeah.
What if that was destroyed?
Yeah, that's a good point. If the body was destroyed, now when he comes back, does he suffer more of a system shock because his body's in pieces?
Right. Exactly. That could be, a whole other role-playing experience too, because where that body was destroyed and that soul actually went somewhere, how are you going to get it back, if you can at all? In that case, would the player character technically be dead? And that's it? So...
Well, yeah, if the stone person happens to be smashed, for example, into two pieces, all right, so he's still stone, and his spirit is there still. Now, if you say you put them back together, and you cast a spell, he'd probably be a whole person. Maybe you might want to add a little more to the system shock roll because of what happened.
Sure.
But let's just say he falls apart while you're casting the spell, or someone interrupts it or smashes it.
Oh dear.
Does he survive? I mean, this is really a DM's call here. I mean, you really can't There's no rule in the
Right.
book. You can look through all the books. You're not going to find a rule. We did
Right.
it. There's no solid rule on this. So we're just going to go with, you're the DM, you make the call on this.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and I think that's probably the best way to go about it.
Yeah, or, just kill the character. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Or just, kill him.
Yeah, why not? All right, that's going to end up the Sage Advice for this week. If you have any questions, rfistaff@gmail.com, and we'll head into our feature of this week.
Feature 1.
So what do we have for feature 1 this week, Nick?
Feature 1 this week, we have populating your cities.
How important is that?
Well, for me, I'll give an example here.
Go ahead.
Is either it doesn't have to be cities either. We could talk anything from a small village up to a large metropolis. Excuse me.
Superman's place, yeah, Metropolis.
Yeah, but basically, filling in the background of all those other non-player characters out there. One of the things I do is because I'm limited on my time. I have a family and kids, and I have a life outside of gaming. Oh my gosh!
How dare you say that? Shh.
I know. I know. But I'll like steal bits and pieces from other places. I'll find supplements that might have some stuff fleshed out here, and I'll throw that in my campaign and use it somewhere. Good example of this is when I was running Sinister Secret Assault Marsh.
Ooh, okay.
And one of the things in that module is when they wrote it is they left it up to the GM to flesh out the town, how they were supposed to do it. And that could take quite some time. If you're talking a town of like 2,000 NPCs, I mean, you don't have to flesh out everybody.
Yeah, you don't need to know the kid throwing the rock against the door on the left side of the town on the 2 o'clock time zone,
Unless he has some significant information, but yes, exactly. You don't have to flesh out everybody, but at least a certain percentage of population is going to be significant.
10%. My vision is 10% usually.
Yeah, exactly what I'm thinking. About 10% of that population is going to be, significant NPCs.
All right, so breaking it down a little bit more, you're going to probably want, say we're in a small village. Let's go with a small village.
Yeah. Okay.
For example, you're probably going to want some type of leader of the village, like a mayor or maybe some type of sheriff or something.
Yeah, or like a local lord, what have you.
Yeah, a local lord, a sire, or something. You're probably going to want, if there's going to be any guards in there, you're probably going to want at least one named guard as like the chief or the head of security there or something.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you're going to have the all-important bartender at the tavern.
Right.
They always ask his name, so you're always going to have a name for a tavern.
One that always comes up for me is the blacksmith.
Yep, the blacksmith.
I always have players wanting to make armor or
Yep.
weapons, fixing weapons. That's
Blacksmith.
always an important one.
Another one is the inn, because, characters have to sleep somewhere.
Exactly, yeah.
So we're looking at the mayor or the lord. We're looking at the chief of security, pretty much. We're looking at a bartender, an innkeeper, a blacksmith slash weaponsmith. What else we got?
Just off the top of my head, maybe if you're in a large enough town, and maybe a couple of sages to help you with some research on something. Maybe a map you found, whatever. Those could pop up and be useful. What else would be good? Going kind of on the blacksmith, but anybody who is a tradesman in the town is going to be significant. Anybody who owns any sort of shop is probably going to be significant to that campaign inside that town as far as NPCs are concerned.
I know in my campaigns, whenever I DM a blacksmith focusing in architecture
Really?
is always important because my PCs seem to always want to make a home and always want to do construction no matter what.
Oh my gosh.
So I always have to have a blacksmith on hand in my towns that, well, I don't have to, but I like to do that. So, I like to make the players happy. I mean, happy players equal more games, so...
Yeah. Now, one of the things I did use, like when I did module U1, is I kind of put two modules together. I used module L1, The Secret of Bone Hill,
Ooh, okay.
and used that town in there with all that people, expanded it a little bit more, and I used that module along with U1, and it worked out fantastically. So that's another way that you can flesh out any villages, towns, and cities. Is I just kind of pick and choose from things. One thing I found out that I've used over time is the Rogues Gallery.
Really?
Which is a fantastic resource for those significant NPCs in a town, village, or city. Pages, just give you like pages 28 through 33 is a real good sections. They have like different sages, zero level characters, caravans, city guards, city watch, border patrols, pilgrims, bandits, and buccaneers. So if you have that Rogues Gallery supplement, it's very good with just those few pages in there. I've used that over time, and it's a fantastic supplement to have for any AD&D game. I highly recommend it if you can get your hands on it still.
Yeah, we'll have to post a picture of that on the website so people can get an idea what it looks like. And another one I just thought about is you should always have like a priest on hand, a temple, or like
yes,
or some type of church, because they always need healing. Because my group refuses to play priests or clerics, I should say.
Okay.
I don't know why. They don't play that.
I don't get it. That's my favorite class to play.
It was mine as well. Yeah. Every time so far the characters in my group consist of a dwarven fighter, a halfling thief, and a Chinese monk.
Oh, quite an eclectic group.
Yeah. The third player, he came late that night, and he was just like, well, I want to play a monk. I'm like, well, the group really needs either a magic user or a cleric. Why don't you play one of those? He's like, no, I want to play a monk. I said, fine. Qualify for it, you can play it. I didn't think he was going to do it, but he did.
Wow.
And my rule is, I don't like to railroad players. I don't like to restrict them too much. I want them to have fun. So if they want to be screwed throughout the adventure without a healer, then that's their problem. You better hire somebody.
Yep, or you better get lots of potions of healing.
Definitely. Another really great resource is, and I'm sorry the name really slipped me right now, but I got it as a promotional item from AEG, the company.
Oh.
It's a black book. It's called a Book of Research, I think it's called. It's 10 years in the making, this book.
Wow.
I think it's about 500 pages. And they did retail at $50, but I don't think it ever sold at that. I don't know if it actually went onto the market last I looked, but it has tons and tons of rolling options. So you can sit there and roll up a whole character's background and have 2-3 pages worth of background information.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, you can sit there and roll up an entire city and have everything planned out. It would take you a little while, but everything would be planned out for you, so you wouldn't have to actually think about it.
Now, is this a supplement that's like system generic? It could be used with any system?
It was mainly meant for the D20 system, but it has a D20 logo on it. I guess they printed it under the Open Gaming license. But there is nothing actually specific about it that nails it into the D20 system.
So it's more or less system neutral.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to get something like that. That sounds like something. I love supplements that you can use from anywhere or from any system. I mean that could easily translate over to another system, especially the first edition. It sounds like a great resource for first edition. It
is an excellent. I've been using it every time I had a chance to write something for a campaign. So
wow, I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the name and put it on the website for everybody to look at. RFIpodcast.com is our website. So back to populating cities. We went off on a little tangent there. After we do that, now we're going to. I think what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to mark out our buildings on a map.
Right.
It's always important for players to know where things are in the village or the town, for example.
Exactly. And you could go any which way, I guess, with that. I mean, you can have a town, village, city map already keyed out for your players, and they can just point to the key and say, "Yep, we want to go there." Or you can keep the key to the city yourself, if you will, and let them figure it out on their own wherever they go.
Yeah, true. Now, when you make up your maps of your towns or your cities, do you sit here and use your own imagination and say, like, graph paper? Or are you going to use a program of some sorts?
At first, way back in the day, I used graph paper, but now, because I'm a slave to the computer, I like to use various programs to generate maps if I need them. One I do use is for the the AD&D Second Edition Core Rules CD.
The ROM CD.
Yeah,
I have that.
The CD-ROM. It's got a nice basic mapping system. I mean, it's nothing really fancy, but it suits my needs when I need to generate a map for either a village or for a dungeon. It's all right there for me.
It's a really good program. I'm really sad that Wizards of the Coast didn't pick up on it again. And
I agree.
And update the program, because to buy the program right now, you're talking $200-$300.
Yeah, because it's out of print.
And the people who have it, are stingy.
Yeah, well, yeah. What are you gonna do then? But I know there are various other little applications to get out there on the web, like Campaign Cartographer.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's
a very good one. Trying to think of a few others that are out there, but that's the one that leaps to mind that I know that's out there. You can easily download.
Yeah, there's a free trial with that, and you can play around with it and actually print out what you do. It's limited what you have, but at least it gives you a little heads up on what things are.
Yeah. Now, at times, I will I will scan maps that are like from maybe some other game or something, and after I scan them into my computer, I'll tweak them out a little bit and add some things here and there. So it really all depends.
You know what I saw someone do recently, and I thought was really cool, was they took Google Maps, and they found an area like probably out more towards Nevada, where there's less, cities and stuff that can condense things. And what they did was they took the map and they placed little pointers on what you can do with Google Maps. Little pointers on it. They took the view and they changed it a little bit, and they blurred it out, and they put their own little structures on it, and they made their own custom map using the land structure from Google Maps, which I thought was really cool.
That is very cool. I have to check that out. That is a really neat idea.
Yeah, I was really surprised that you can actually do what he did with Google Maps. Apparently there's all those little tools in there that we just don't know about.
Wow. That's amazing. That is really amazing.
Yeah. Well, okay. So tell us how you populate your cities or towns. Give us some tips. Write us to rfistaff@gmail.com. We want to read about your experiences. I think that's going to wrap things up this week for that feature one. And we're going to head into the creature feature theater with everybody's favorite monster.
Suddenly, your torch goes out. You fumble around the darkness to relight your torch. When you do, you look up and see the creature feature theater.
So, the creature feature theater this week, what do we have? We have the Disenchanter.
Yes, the Disenchanter. Oh, boy.
Yeah, grab your Fiend Folio, folks. Flip open the book.
I got mine.
What a great book. I love this book.
It's like hit or miss with people. Either they love it or they hate it. I personally like it. I mean, not, the flump withstanding. So,
it is located on page 27. If you have the book handy while you're listening to the podcast and you want to pop it up, there is your monster. It kind of looks like a mix of like an anteater and a camel mixed into one.
Yes,
it's got
quite a strange-looking fellow.
Yeah. So, Nick, give us a little quick rundown. What happens when you run into one of these?
Well, this little guy. I mean. Yeah, like you say, it looks like a combination of a camel and some other long-snouted creature like an elephant. Mm-hmm. And as you can read in the text, he has the ability to detect any magical dwemer, specifically magical armor, shields, swords, and what have you, and he or she, this creature will naturally gravitate towards the most powerful of the magical items in your repertoire, and if you can't easily get to it, he'll get whatever that's most easy to get to. And once he scores a hit, he will drain the magic out of that item. I mean, just suck it, gone. And he can only be hit by magical weapons too. So.
Once your weapon's gone, you're pretty much screwed and can't attack him anymore.
Right. The only thing is, it's only on the snout that this little nose probe thing that he has, where the magic is sucked away from an item. So any time you hit the creature on its body, you'll still hit it with if you have a magic item that's still magical. So
it describes it as having a pale electric blue color and slightly translucent when you see it. So
yes.
It's kind of like it's there, but it's not there. Think of like when you see those movies and you kind of see a unicorn, how it has that little flashy electrical light thing behind it.
Yes.
That's what these creatures are going to have. So if you have a magical item, it's going to drift towards you, it's going to come up looking all cute and everything, and it's going to try to suck the power right out of those magical items. That's what it feeds on.
And that's the only, and it does no damage. Once it hits, it just, there goes the magic out of your weapon or out of your armor.
So, like you said, they need to be hit with a magical item. It does have a armor class of 5, which is not that difficult to hit, but
not too bad.
If you don't have that magical weapon, then you're kind of screwed there.
Yeah, but I also kind of bring up the question, will it be damaged by damage-inflicting spells like Fireball, Magic Missile? I would assume so.
Well, yeah, those are magical attacks, so it should be easily attacked by those. It should take damage by that. I mean, wouldn't you think so?
Yeah. I mean, some people might, some DMs might, I don't know, my question is like, well, it just says magical weapons. So it's like, well, anything that does damage to it that's like magical itself. Just to clarify things, I would say.
I would think, anything that's magically doing damage to this creature would definitely affect it. Yep. One thing I do want to point out that I noticed in this, that it says in the description that no one has ever found a lair for these creatures, and they don't actually take the time to actually say that in many of the descriptions, so I wonder what the lair of this creature would be like if you ever found it.
That's interesting. I'm not really sure where you would find this creature. I would say most likely you would find it in a dungeon environment where a lot of magical items are, being held. I envision this creature, if you're talking ecology-wise, might work in conjunction with other monsters.
I'm thinking this creature would be out in the open, wandering around, because, that's where adventurers mostly are, out in the open before they go into those dungeons. But it could work in a dungeon too. But just looking at the type of creature, I don't really see this type of creature hanging around a dungeon. So
I was kind of thinking, like with this creature, I was kind of making notes about it. It's like, if I was going to use this creature, how would I make, besides its magical attack, how would it defend itself from other things? I would think it would try to work with other monsters. One that just leapt right to my head was the rust monster. I could see this thing in conjunction with a rust monster would be a deadly encounter combination.
Well, it does have an average intelligence, which means it could figure out a way to combine with the rust monster, maybe.
Yeah.
If you want to go that route, that creatures, plan attacks together like that, I mean, why not?
Yeah, maybe it, use a rust monster as something to help it out in some way, because I'm a sadistic DM, and that's what I would do.
Yeah, it's torturing your players since 81.
That's right. And I could maybe see, like, other humanoids maybe using this creature, too. Maybe using it as some sort of defensive measure, if it could. Well, maybe capture it or somehow.
It does have an average intelligence. It does have an alignment, so maybe you can communicate with it by using alignment talk.
Mm-hmm. That's a possibility too.
And
Absolutely.
maybe if you talk to the creature and you bargain, I mean, average intelligence creatures can have reason and ability. So why can't you bargain with it? Say, well, how about you hang around my kingdom and I promise that I'll feed you magical weapons.
Yeah, and as long as you defend me from other beings or other enemies, yeah, that might work as well.
Definitely. Okay, cool. That'll wrap up the Disenchanter. I mean, if you have any tips on how you use it, rfistaff@gmail.com. And we'll head into the Stickler Spotlight.
Stickler's Spotlight.
So, for the Stickler Spotlight this week, we're going to talk a little bit about henchmen.
Yes.
We all use them. Everybody needs them. But do you really want them?
Yes.
Next
and with
on
the
Hold
rules
Up.
as they are, do you want to use those rules?
Yeah. The henchmen rules in the book are a tad confusing to most people, including myself. I don't really use the rules. I don't really like them. I generally do rules as far as for henchmen. If a player wants to hire someone, why go through all these roles and all this and all that for a henchman? Just let them hire the henchman.
Right. You can't go that route. I could see that, and I might use that as times. But if there's a DM who wants to use the rules, I would use this as something that I would use one-on-one with the character who wants to hire a henchman, maybe outside of the actual game, so it won't bog the game down. Because the rules are quite extensive. It's about
3-4
really,
pages, right?
Yeah, 2.5 pages
Yeah.
of material, and it's pretty specific on how to get a henchman and the various percentile rules that you need to see how loyal they are. Various other circumstances might come up to, where your henchman might just leave you depending on your actions. So, but as far as just like hiring them, yeah, if you can use the rules in the book. I mean, yeah, it might take a little bit to plow through, and that's why if I'm going to use this, I would do it outside of the game one-on-one.
Yeah, that wouldn't bog the game down. Maybe during the week while you're waiting for your game to happen on, say, Saturday or something, or whatever you play, you can email back and forth and, set up a few things.
Yeah, and, if you do it outside of the game, it shouldn't take too long one-on-one, because you're devoting your attention to that one player and his desire to see about getting a henchman or several henchmen. Now, I do have to say I did find a little discrepancy, I think, in the rules.
Oh, really? Please do tell.
Yes. It's on page 36 on the paragraph of loyalty of henchmen and hirelings, obedience and morale.
Right.
In the last sentence, it says, the final total is compared to the result of percentile die roll. This is talking about the henchmen's morale and their loyalty base.
Mm-hmm.
And if the total is less than the number shown on the dice, the figure or figures in question are disloyal, disobedient, or have poor morale. Now, taking all this in and looking at things like the charisma that factors into this, actually how you factor in all these different percentile rolls, it's the better modifier is a plus. The worse, the negative modifier is a negative. So something as bad as a negative to the modifier. Something that's good is a positive modifier, and you add that to your modified roll.
Aha.
So it's saying it's less than the number shown on the die. It should be more. Because your percentage for better to show a more positive light is a higher percentage. So it should be the opposite.
I wonder if that got into the errata that they did print in the Dragon magazine.
I'm not aware if it has or not. I'll have to look on that, but my printing, I know, is the 9th printing of the DMG that came out in 81, and I don't know if that was incorporated. I'll have to look, But if anybody could look that up out there, drop us a line at rfipodcast.com and see if you could do a little research on that on the errata, if you could find that.
Definitely, we would like to know if maybe that Gary caught that and he decided to go, oh crap, and he decided to change that for us.
Yeah, it's just like a little minor thing. It's like, oh, I think he meant that. So
I'm sure he did. Gary always catches all his mistakes because he's awesome.
Well, he was awesome.
He was.
But
that's why I'm saying
nobody's infallible.
It's true. Like my DM guide, I have first printing, so I can't really speak on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got a first, and I got I think a third or a fourth. I'm not sure. I have to look at that again, but I don't have any of the errata for it. I've never really looked at the errata too much. I know they did print one in the Dragon magazine. I forget what issue it was, but
I think they incorporated the errata after some time. This might have something that still slipped to the cracks, unless I misread it or how I'm misreading the rules. But I think it should be the opposite effect. It should be the higher on the roll should be a negative effect as far as disloyalty and disobedience.
Well, how I do it in my games, because we were using Henchmen in my game just last night, was I start things off at 5%.
Okay.
So if a player does something stupid or makes his henchman to do something stupid, I add another percentage to that roll depending on what he makes them do. If it's something simple as in, like, go pick up the gold or something, obviously the henchman's not going to be like, you butthole or whatever. It's gold. He's probably going to try to steal some of it more than likely.
Right.
But if it's something like, I want you to take up that gold and then go attack that monster while I sit here and have a drink, obviously he's not going to be he's going to be pissed.
He's not going to be too keen on that, is he?
Yeah, so I have written in my book a conditional modifiers based on certain actions that players will do, and I base it off of that. And say the roll becomes 15% or 20%, I'll roll it, and then if it goes under that, that's when the henchman's going to start turning on the players, as in either running away. I have another chart for either runs away, turns against them, plots against them, steals from them, things like that.
Okay.
So I made up my own henchman thing. I mean, obviously I didn't have to because there's something in the book, but I am more of a customize it, do-it-yourself DM, so...
And that's the beauty of the first edition AD&D rules, isn't it?
Yes, it is, actually.
Yes, it is. You can, it's modular. You can take things that you like and not use things you don't like, and so that's the beauty of it, because you do that, and the whole thing in itself will not fall apart. So yeah, either way, I mean, and I think that's pretty consistent across the board. With everybody else, Vince, is either you can use something right here if you're in the rule books, if you're comfortable with that, go for it, use it. If not, make something on your own, and that's perfectly fine. As long as it works, it works.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like mostly about first edition, and even going back to classic or basic, is that if it's not there, just make it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing that says in the rules that you can't do that. I mean, I know there's people that like to stick directly by the book, and if it's not in the book, then what are we going to do?
Yeah, I try to stick as close to the book as much as I can, but I'm not a slave to the rules.
No, generally, I think I remember reading in one of Gary's articles a while back that he had done for a website was, we have the rules in the book. We have them there for your enjoyment and fun. Follow them if you want, and if you can't resolve a situation, just take a D6 and roll.
Exactly.
A 1 or a 2, depending on the situation, and that'll just solve your problem and you move along. And I was like, wow, that's the best advice I've ever heard for D&D.
There you go.
So.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So, okay, well, tell us what you do with your henchmen, rfistaff, gmail.com. We want to know about your stories with henchmen and what henchmen have done to your group and stuff like that. Okay, we'll head into the Dragon's Hoard next.
As the party enters the last space inside the cave, a treasure can be seen, so stretch as far as the eye can see. Beware as you have just entered the Dragon's Hoard.
Okay, we're going to be in the Dragon's Hoard right now. What do we have this week, Nick?
Well, in the Dragon's Hoard this week, we have a lovely little magic item, the Wand of Wonder. And what a wonder it is.
Yeah.
This is one of those magic items where I think most players, when they find out they have this thing, they want to immediately sell it.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
One of those classic weapons from back in the day. Like we did the last time, the Vorpal Sword. Now we're going to do the Wand of Wonder. What do we wonder about the Wand of Wonder now?
Yes. Well, I like this item just because it's the sheer randomness of its effects. I mean,
if you turn to page 136 in your Dungeon Master's Guide, you will see that there is a nice little description of the Wand of Wonder. It's an unpredictable wand with strange and weird things that happen and affect randomly each time it's used. So you have a percentile chart here, which by all means you do not have to use, as we always promote on this podcast. You can always generate your own thing for it.
Oh, yes, you can tinker with this thing all you want, make your own version of the Wand of Wonder. In fact, when I was looking around not too long ago when we were going to do this particular magic item, I found a couple of websites. They've made their own version of the Wand of Wonder, so to get some inspiration, if you want to make your own, if you want to just use what's in the book.
The one thing I love about this Wand of Wonder for a DM, it can be a lot of fun because you can fudge the rolls.
Oh, sure.
And do what you want. I mean, one minute you can have your player whale out that fireball, and the next minute you can have it raining, and you're like, what?
Or, the stream of 600 large butterflies start coming out. Actually, I have a really good story about this magic item.
Oh, go, by all means.
Yes, I have a... now, this was in my Hackmaster 4th Edition game.
Go ahead.
Which, it's like 75% of the rules is like 1st Edition AD&D.
Right.
So, a lot of commonality. Now, within that game, I think, just to show how fun this magic item is, we did kind of just like an arena battle at Origins a few years back.
Okay.
And one of the people playing chose a pre-generated character I made. It was a gnome illusionist thief who had a Wand of Wonder. Now, in the Hackmaster rules, if you're an illusionist, if you have various types of magic items like a Wand of Illusion, you can control the effects of them. So he said, you know what, I'm just going to let it go random because my character's alignment's chaotic neutral, and that's just how he is. I'm not going to control what he does. And the illusionist thief was like on a high pedestal, and there was another character down below, and he wanted to somehow try to take this other character out. And he used the Wand of Wonder, and he rolled to where he got he summoned an elephant, and this elephant dropped off the pillar and dropped on the character and crushed him. So that's an interesting way to use that wand.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yes, death by pachyderm.
So
yeah, it took like crushing damage and everything. It was a beautiful thing.
So this wand can do whatever you want, pretty much. You can sit there and flesh out your own description for it, or you can just use what's strictly out of the book if you don't have time. I mean, what are some? You said you did look for some examples of what people had made up for the wand.
Yes.
What is an example that somebody did? Just one example.
Let's see. Give you a good example here, if I can find it. Okay, yeah. Some of the things that you could do if you want to randomly, make up something new. All footwear in a 40-foot radius vanishes without a trace.
That's
Magic footwear gets a save versus spells. That's an interesting effect. I don't think that's in the original one.
That definitely is interesting. Do you have another example of what someone maybe did?
Yes. actually off the same list. 24 gallons of soft serve ice cream will ooze out of the end of the wand for 3 rounds. Wand cannot be used for anything other than cones during this time.
Oh boy, it's kind of goofy what they did, I guess.
Yeah, that's a little weird one. But here's another one that's it's a little bit better effect. In this one, I guess you go 50-50 one.
Mm-hmm.
Slow on target for 1 round. Haste on wielder for 2.
Oh, wow.
So that's a pretty good one.
So you can pretty much put whatever you want in there, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this magical item, too.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
All right, so the Wand of Wonder is a wonderful item for a DM more than a player, probably, if you think about it. Because that gives the DM a chance to actually have a little fun with his players. Because we talked about the deck of many things a while back, which is more fun for a player than a DM because that is a big campaign breaker. This is more of just a comedical or a comedy act, these wands usually. So, I mean, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but even with that, sometimes the effects, if you role play it right, could be beneficial. I mean, like I said, the 24 gallons of soft serve ice cream ooze out of the end. I mean, it's going to make the ground slippery.
Yeah.
So, you shoot that towards your enemy, could make the ground slippery for them. They're going to have to make, like, dex checks or something like that. So,
cool.
You're slipping on ice cream.
All right, well, we'll just take a moment here since we're getting towards the end of the show before our last segment, just where you can contact us. You can go to the d20radio.com forums or the dragonsfoot.org forums and contact us there. Or you can go directly to our site, rfipodcast.com, or you can email us, rfistaff@gmail.com, or where else can they go now, Blackstone?
You can also check me out over at kenzerco.com. We're on the moderator on the Hackmaster forum. So if you go on kenzerco.com and click on forums, and you can check me out there too.
Definitely. And we'll be back right after this.
Blackstone's Vault.
Hello, and welcome again to another edition of Blackstone's Vault. I'm your host, Blackstone, and this is a second part of a 3-part series of modules, the U series, and it's module U2, Danger at Dunwater by Dave J. Brown and Don Turnbull, and the recommended levels are 1 through 4. Okay, a little bit about this adventure. Taking up from module U1, the plot does get a little more complex, and it's probably best if I read it out of the appendix of Module U2. A colony of lizardmen had recently re-established possession of a lizardman stronghold previously abandoned many years before. The lizardmen are also known to have brought large quantities of weapons from a gang of smugglers, who were also, before the gang was routed, smuggling contraband goods to Saltmarsh. The members of the Saltmarsh Town Council are fearful of these developments, lest their own little fishing town is to be targeted of the aggression for which the lizardmen are obviously preparing. They approach a party of adventurers and ask for aid in ridding Saltmarsh of the menace. Unknown to the Town Council and to the adventurers, the lizardmen are not planning an attack on Saltmarsh. Rather, they are anxious to rid the area of the menace posed by an invading horde of Sahuagin. To this end, the lizardmen are negotiating with several other tribes of mermen, Coenlinth, and Locantha to gain allies in the struggle to come. The problems facing the lizardmen could possibly be amplified by internal dissent, though as yet this dissent has not come out into the open. Some of the lizardmen in the colony do not agree with the idea of allying with other races, even in the face of a Sahuagin threat, since they hold this in contrary to the teachings of their god Simuanya. These dissenters dare not oppose their chief yet, but if his authority and that of his senior officers were removed, they would make their feelings known in no uncertain manner. And that's the basic plot. There's also a reward of 5,000 gold pieces for the adventuring party if they find out what the lizardmen are up to. Alright, so that's the basic plot. NPCs in this, there's quite a few, and surprisingly enough, it's primarily lizardmen. You have the two factions. There's a pro-alliance faction and an anti-alliance faction. The pro-alliance faction is the chief, the sub-chief, his warriors, and the lizardman minister, who's the most influential to the chief. And if he's eliminated, it could definitely turn the tide for the anti-alliance faction. Now, the anti-alliance faction is basically the clerical, the shamans. You got the chief shaman and his senior shaman, all the other ones as well. Plus, all the females are on the anti-alliance faction. So you have those two sides vying for power in the lizardmen lair of who they should ally with, or should they ally with anybody at all. Some of the major encounters in this, basically you have an overland trek to the lizardman lair. On there's a random encounter table, some snakes, giant leeches, giant frogs, some crocodiles. So we have that encounter table plus a preset one of a bullywug ambush of about 25 bullywugs. Now the other way you can get to there is by sea. Now, kind of dovetailing to the previous adventure, now it is assumed that you're going to go ahead by land, but you could go by sea. In the module, they recommend that you hire some people out of the town to take some smaller boats, and you can go that way. It's not encouraged to use the Sea Ghost, even if you captured it. And it even goes the way that the DM should, make them run the ship aground or something like that. And I'll get into that a little bit later, how I handled that. And there are no encounters as written for a seaborne adventure on the way there. Now, as far as the lair is concerned, of course, there's hordes of lizardmen. You got the warriors, the shamans, the females. There's actually a funny little section there of two younglings, a male and a female youngling, that if they're about 4 years old, human age, and if they run into the adventuring party, they will kind of tag along with them, so they can kind of be annoying, but a little funny too. And you also have the minister, who does speak the common tongue and is rather intelligent. If you confront him, if you meet up with him, he will probably be more curious than scared of the adventuring party. You also have the temple to Semel-Anya in there. There's a harem of lizardmen, women, the royal hatchery. There's some giant lizards. There's also an imprisoned Sahuagin, so that would maybe clue the PCs, if they run into that thing in the lair, what's might actually be going on. And also the emissaries from the mermen, the Locantha, and the Coalinth. So that's pretty much the lair itself. Now the good stuff. It's got really good maps in here. There's also a list of pre-generated player characters. But what's most interesting about this is the complex plot that does evolve in this particular module. There is that possibility of an alliance with the humans, but it would be a tenuous one at most, because they don't really consider humans part of the fight against the Sahuagin. Now, also there's a little twist with Oceanus. If he is with the party, apparently the Coalinth and the Aquatic Elves do not get along at all. There's some animosity between the two races. So maybe if you can handle it well, if you learn how to speak Aquatic Elf or teach some common to Oceanus, could either be a help or hindrance. Also, there's many details. There's many details on what with the Lizardman Anti-Alliance faction wins out. Also, with the Lizardman Pro-Alliance faction wins, what would that happen there? If you do make peace with the Lizardmen, they will send emissaries back with the player character party back to Saltmarsh and negotiate with them, but they will demand reparations for any lizardmen, warriors, females, eggs, whatever. About 10 gold piece a pop right there. Now, if you refuse to pay, if the player characters refuse to pay, now there is in this one an option of how they can make amends with the lizardmen. Now there is a lair of oriental dragon nearby the lizardmen that is causing some trouble. A Panlung dragon who has charmed a giant crocodile with his special abilities. And if the player characters can, they will go to the lair of the dragon, defeat it and its crocodile companion if possible. And that would be as good as paying reparations to the lizardmen. Also, what if your party, and I'm sure this has happened to many, what if they just go in and hack and slash and destroy everything in the lizardman lair? Well, there's even details in the concluding notes of what to do if that happens. So he could go on to Module U3, the final enemy. So, as I said, they've taken every consideration, every scenario into consideration here. So there's a lot for a DM to read, digest here, and so I don't think a DM would be lacking in any sort of material here. Now, some of the not-so-good stuff. The thing about the Sea Ghost, how the module is written to discourage the players from using the Sea Ghost. Well, you know what? If they want to use it, fine. Also, there's no water encounters. Well, that's easily done. You can make up your own waterborne encounter table in that case. And that's how I ran it. And as far as the other opinions here, how I ran the thing, the actions of the PCs will determine which faction wins. Basically, how far you get into the lizardmen lair and which way you turn and who you fight is going to be pivotal in the final negotiations on who is going to be in alliance with humans or not. So, and how it happened in my group is when I DM'd it not too long ago, they went in, fought the giant lizards, went through, and went the right path basically to kill the head shaman, a couple of his leaders. So when it came to negotiations, it wasn't that bad. They still didn't want to pay the reparations, and they went on to fight in the Oriental Dragon Lair. But that's how it kind of plays out, and it could go the other way too. Also, if the PCs want to use the Sea Ghost, I would say, they can hire a crew for the Sea Ghost in Saltmarsh. I mean, that would work. Or, if you want to, maybe use some of those secondary skills in the DMG, I believe on page 12 of the DMG. Or you can use, is when you get at least the Waterborne, when you get on ship and you head towards there, you can use the Wilderness Survival Guide, page 44 through 46. So you can use that to help out there too if you wish. Also, the Fiend Folio will be needed because of the Bullywugs and the Oriental Dragon. Now, where can you find this module? You can find it on eBay in a wide range of prices, right from a starting bid of 99 cents up to a buy it now price of $24.95. And of course, you can check all your other conventions out there. But that's it in a nutshell about U2 Danger at Dunwater. This one can either be a hack and slash thing, or B, lots of role-playing opportunities. So it could be handled either way. Until then, I will cover the last module, the final enemy, in the next segment. So until then, this is Blackstone signing off and wishing all your hits are crits.
Okay, folks, that's going to wrap up the show this week. This has been issue 8. I am your host, DM Vincent, along with DM Nick, and Nick will be joining us again for another show or two. And Jason, hopefully, will be back next time with us when he gets back into town.
That would be great.
If not, we'll be here and he'll be there. So,
you never know. We could have all three of us on at the same time. It would make heck of a podcast.
Definitely. So I'm just going to sign off this week saying keep it original, keep it old school, and have a good night.
All right, good night, everybody.
Roll for initiative.